for him to come to do the throne speech next Tuesday is very powerful, very special. It sends a strong message again that Canada is a sovereign, independent nation, a strong, independent country. And he's King of Canada. We're a constitutional monarchy. And that's a message that all Canadians are starting to embrace, but as well as our relatives south of the border.
His Majesty King Charles III arrives in Ottawa tomorrow. He is set to deliver the speech from the throne Tuesday, laying out the new government's agenda while making history. He will be the first monarch to open a session of Canada's Parliament since his mother, the late Queen Elizabeth II, did so in 1977. Perry Bellegarde is the former National Chief of the Assembly of First Nations. He has known King Charles, for more than 2 decades, and he's with me now in studio. Hi, Chief Bellegarde. Great to see you again.
Good to see you as well, Darcy.
I appreciate you making the time. So I was thinking about you this week because I saw in that big ceremony that took place at Canada House where the King and the Queen attended that you were standing next to the King in nearly every picture I saw of the event. Tell me a little bit about your interactions there and what you're looking ahead to this week.
Well, I'm the honorary president for the Royal Canadian Geographical Society, and so we had a huge map of Canada on the floor, and it outlined all the 46 national parks, right? And so my task was to escort His Majesty across Canada. So you can say I walked with the King across Canada almost, but explaining certain parks, you know, that he had interest in. And of course he went up to Resolute Bay as well, because that's where he went and dove under the ice a few years back. And so we talked about that and just the relevancy of having a strong relationship with Canada, because we were a colony of Great Britain right up until 1982. And then for us as First Nations people, we have a extra special link with the Crown because of our treaty relationship. And so it was really nice just to talk about all of that as we walked across Canada.
What is your impression, or why do you think he thinks it's important to come here and deliver this throne speech?
Well, I think we have a new government. You know, Prime Minister Carney's in place, and they're going to be outlining the priorities. But I think in light of what's going on in the world, what's going on with Russia, Ukraine, what's going on with Palestine, Israel, what's going on south of the border here and everything else, and the economic trade wars going on, and I think it just shows that as a country, as Canada, we're a constitutional monarchy, and to have our head of state come to read the throne, it sends a very strong message about our uniqueness, about our special relationship, but indeed about our sovereignty as an independent nation, a sovereign independent nation called Canada. Is very powerful, and I think it's very timely.
And how important is it from where you sit that that message be delivered via the King at this moment in time, as you describe it?
Well, it's very timely in light of comments. You know, you have upcoming First Ministers meeting coming up on June 2nd. You know, you have the G7 coming up. I think it provides clarity and certainty in terms of a strong, independent, sovereign nation. I think it'll provide some stability in terms of how we can move together as not only as Canada but as a world in terms of finding the balance between the environment, the economy. So it is timely, and to me it shows hope. There's hope about stability and how we build a better country and a better world together.
What do you know about the King? I think of all the people I interview, you know him the best. What do you know about him that we don't? Like, what would we be surprised to learn?
Well, I think you'd be surprised to learn about his commitment to the treaty relationship we have with the Crown. And as First Nations people, you're going to see a lot of First Nations people coming in, a lot of chiefs, even though they may not have a formal meeting, just to keep that covenant, that sacred covenant, in place with the Crown, because our treaties are with the Crown in right of Great Britain, now the Crown right of Canada. And we have to move beyond the Indian Act and move towards the Treaty Implementation Act. So his commitment to that relationship is very profound and very deep. That's number one. The other thing I think people don't know is that how strongly he's committed to the environment and the land and the water. And that's demonstrated through his commitment to when he unrolled the Sustainable Markets Initiative and wanting to get the private sector, like global businesses, putting Mother Earth first in their business operations. So I don't think a lot of people know his commitment to that, and we stress that upon his coronation. And people ask me, well, what kind of king is he going to be, Chief Bellegarde? I said, he's going to be a king that puts on his 7th generation crown thinking, crown, if you will, to think about the future that far, sustainable development for generations now, but into the future. That's what I said. So I don't think a lot of people know that about him.
I have you here, and so before I leave, I did want to ask you, we're going to hear a speech from the throne. There's been so much focus on our response to what's going on in the United States, but the issue of reconciliation is one that most definitely persists. And I wondered, as someone with your vantage point, with your experience, what you would be looking for from this government in that vein.
Well, I would say I would hope and want to see the continued prioritization efforts for reconciliation with Indigenous peoples in Canada. Still dealing with potable drinking water, still dealing with the housing crisis, still dealing with the high youth suicide rate, still dealing with the full implementation of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission's 94 calls to action. We need to deal with that. Policing as an essential service. Like, the list can go on and on. But these, I always say, people should look upon these things like investments in education, in housing, in training, because that closes the socioeconomic gap that exists still to this day in 2025 between First Nations people and the rest of Canadian society. And once that gap closes, when you make those key strategic investments, that's not only good for our people, that's good for Canada as a whole. Productivity will increase. And that's what this would be all about. So I'm hoping to see those things in the throne speech and their continued commitment to the ongoing treaty relationship. Because our treaty relationship is with the Crown. It's not with the Liberals or the Conservatives or the NDP, it's with the Crown. And that should transcend all departments as well within the government.
Okay, I'm going to leave it on that note. Chief Bellegarde, such a pleasure to see you. Thank you for making the time.
Thanks for the opportunity, Vashi.